So, shall we get ready?
Yeah, let's go for it.
Are we ready?
We're ready.
At the start of your business journey, it can feel like you are the everything. You are doing the marketing, you're doing the sales, you are taking out the rubbish and making the coffee, and it can feel really hard work. So I created these go-to interviews to give you those little golden nuggets, those little sparks that will help you find your way in what can be a really difficult journey as a solopreneur, business owner, entrepreneur, you name it. So enough about that. I'm Lindsay Burden, in case we've not met before, and I'm an intuitive business coach, and I work with incredible women, helping them create wildly successful businesses and a time-rich lifestyle. But it's not about me today. I am super excited because today I have Kelly West of the ONLE Network here with me today. Good morning.
Good morning, Lindsay. Well, more of those introductions wouldn't go amiss. That's great. Thank you.
And I should say I am a member of the ONLE Network. Right. It is an incredible network of awesome people. And I think it's those awesome people that have come together. And I think they're there because of you and James, because you are people.
Yeah, we are. I nearly said too much. So it came out of my mouth then, which would have sounded really awful. And I've now, I'll come to that in a bit. Yeah, we definitely are people. It's filtered from us for sure.
Before we get started, can you tell us a little bit about your journey and how the ONLE Network came about?
Okay, we have a lovely, cute story. We met at networking 9 years ago. Yes, 9 years ago. Yeah. Category lockout networking, so I couldn't join James's group, so I could only go there when I could visit, which was, if I was subbing for I used to be in travel, so I used to go and sub for one of my colleagues, and I'd see James there, and I always quite fancied him, so it was never a chore. So we met in networking, incredibly important space for both of us for different reasons. For me at that time, I was, what was I? Mid-30s, had my friends, had my family, didn't really need anything, but I needed business. Yeah. And James went for a very different reason. He went for the mental health side of things, to get out of home and to be in a space of people that he trusted. So we did it for different reasons, but we loved it and just wanted to do more of it, and thought, well, just have a go. Let's see if we can do this ourselves and make it what we want it to be, because we've been part of lots of different networks, all very good, but didn't quite serve us how we wanted them to. So we thought, we'll have a go. 6 years in January later, here we are. And it's important for us. It's a family business. It facilitates our lifestyle. We have a disabled daughter, so we have to work around that as well. So, it very much is a passion project, but it's our baby. We don't have children together. So ONLE is our baby. And it, as you've kind of said, it stems from us and what we believe in and the people that we attract. Yeah,
absolutely. And I think that's why I love the network so much, because you are the guiding light. You are, you ooze the values, and therefore you attract people. And I think that's really important, because we talk about marketing. There's a lot of talk about marketing, what you have to do, but I really see my own networking and being part of the network. That is my, a huge part of my marketing strategy. And for me, it's very much about, I network for myself to get out of the house, although I don't actually have to leave the house.
Yep.
To connect with people, but it keeps you in touch with what's going on. And it's so important. I always ask everyone to sort of give us a guiding title for our little discussions. And yours was making networking work. And this is really important message that we need to get across today, because I hear it so often. I go networking and it doesn't work. And we hear that all the time. What do you think are some of the barriers that prevent people from using networking successfully for their businesses?
That's a good question. I think it depends on the person. So there's myriad answers to this, but I think broadly speaking, if somebody's telling me the network doesn't work for them, that's not true. Okay, it doesn't matter if it's only BNI, wherever you go, doesn't matter. The network will work for you if you play the network, if you get involved and you do what you need to do and you act in the right way. we all have peaks and troughs. We're all feeling it sometimes and not the others. And that's, you know, that's acceptable. That's why we've created Only to be the way it is. So it can be sort of dipped in and out of. But I think the problem is being realistic as to what you want to achieve from networking.
Yeah.
Do you go networking to get an ROI in terms of pound signs and return on investment in the form of clients? Do you go networking because it's a place to get you out of your space and you work on your own and you just need a band of people that you can rely on and have conversations with? Do you need it for the education? Do you need it for the reach of awareness? There are so many reasons you can go networking. And I think the number one failure is, wow, I pay £39 a month. Do I get £39 a month back as a return? You can't quantify it like that. You can't, you know, whilst instinctively that's going to be the way we do it, of course it is. If I pick up the phone to one of the solicitors and they give me 10 minutes of their advice, which by the way, I did in a breakout room this morning, they didn't charge me 500 quid for that advice. They did that because, oh, thumbs up there from me on the screen. They did that because they're part of my network and they want to help me and they want to support me and see me grow. So I think it's very short-sighted if people say, no, networking doesn't work.
Yeah.
On the flip side, I mean, we call ourselves a network for people who like people, and we joke about the fact if you don't like people, don't stay, you know, your Wi-Fi can drop. But it's so important because if you're not prepared to listen and give time to people, you won't thrive in Only, you won't. So I think that element of the network doesn't work for me is for people who don't like people. If you're not prepared to listen and give and grow together, you will not get anything in return.
And you've used that word give a couple of times there. And I think for me, that's really important. It is about what you can give. It is about the value that you bring. And when you do that, it comes back at you.
Oh, money. There's this big thing with money, isn't there? You know, money is the root of all evil. Money makes you happy. Money doesn't make you happy. Oh, we hear this all the time, don't we? And it is a struggle as a solo business owner, especially if you're husband and wife in the same business, or if you're both self-employed and running your own businesses. There's no consistency. There's lots of, you know, well, gosh, how are we going to pay the bills? So I do understand that money provides a big factor here, but I think the point is you've got to be true to yourself, haven't you?
Yes, I agree.
You know, and we've been talking about this month. I'm kind of going off topic a little bit here, but this is really important. Like, if you can't come in and be true to yourself and understand what it is you want to achieve and what you're holding yourself accountable for, as well as everybody else, knowing your boundaries. So I kind of touched on this at the beginning. I am incredibly giving, incredibly generous with my time. And I do that with 350 members. And I would like to think I am as accessible to all of those people. And that's a problem for us as we grow. Of course it is. But why wouldn't I give my time for somebody that is there supporting me and my business? So I think, again, it's very short-sighted of people to say, I'm not going to give Bob 10 minutes of my time because he's never going to be a customer. He's never going to bring anything to my door. Because guess what, Bob? We'll do that if you give him some time and show him kindness. But you sometimes have to give before you gain, don't you?
Yeah, it is that give gain balance as well, isn't it? And you talked about boundaries there. And I think the other, you've mentioned lots and lots of things actually around, it's important to be part of the network. It's important to be in the network. It's important to give value, to be really clear of what your aims and objectives are when you're networking, because that's the only way you can really tell whether there is a return on investment. And there's something else that's sort of playing on my mind a little bit, and that's, I wonder if people, when we're solopreneurs, it can be we need a return, and we need a return fast. And I do sometimes wonder if people don't give it the time that it needs.
Oh, 100%. 100%. The amount of times I've had an email this morning from a member that's leaving because they don't have time to attend. And I get it. You know, this is not a slight on that person. This is, I'm sure all networks hear this multiple times a week. It's 90 minutes. It's 90 minutes in a month. You know, at the most, it's as much as you want to put in effort wise over and above that. But at the very least, it's 90 minutes a month or a week, depends on wherever you go. If you genuinely cannot give 90 minutes to marketing, lead generation, business growth, business awareness, business scale, I think that's a problem, a bigger problem within your business, not just a problem for you networking. I'd say it's a lie in all honesty. And I know that sounds a little bit harsh. I think that's quite often, that's not true. You do have 90 minutes to do it. You do have the time to do it. It's just that you're not prioritizing it in the right way.
Yeah. And that goes back to being a business owner and leading your business and making sure that you're putting your time and attention in the right places. Yeah. And I think in the world that we live, and certainly for, after lockdown, I think online networking is genius. How much time do we save because it's all online? We don't have to get in our cars. We don't have to run around. So,
but we've forgotten that.
Yeah,
we've massively forgotten that. And it's been really interesting because, of course, we were really concerned. We made that decision very quickly to never go back to in person. Like, literally, we'll never go back in person. And that was a bit, oh God, biting our fingernails for 6 months to see where the world would go. And even really up until recently, I'd probably say towards the end of last year, even maybe up to the beginning of this summer, people were going back in droves to in person. But I tell you what, they're going back online now because they know exactly how much time, effort, and energy it takes, and it's hard. It's hard work. It's draining. So and I'm not slighting in-person stuff. It works, and I think really good networkers will probably do a blend of both.
Yeah. Or you have one
or the other.
Over the other.
You have one that you prefer over the other. But to say that you don't have time is not true. To say that you don't want to prioritize the time for that is absolutely fine, and there's nothing wrong with that.
There's something else as well, and I think ONLE provides us a way of getting around this, because we've talked about time and prioritizing. One of the key things, and I've always said it in any network training I've done, you have to follow up. It's not about just showing up for that 90 minutes. I really do think you build the relationships in those one-to-ones that you have afterwards. And I think what ONLE does, just to give ONLE a bit of a plug, is those weekly 1, 2, 3 sessions. You get 3 10 minutes. That's one-to-ones right there. Or you're meeting new people from across the network, which ONLE has over 350 members, I think. And did I see somewhere 24 groups?
Yes.
Just to give you a plug there.
Thank you.
It's worth it. It's worth it. Do you think that's another reason that people struggle to make networking actually work for their business? Because they see it as it's that slot at that time, and they don't recognize the work that needs to go in outside of that?
Oh, for sure. I mean, there is a lot of work that goes into it, isn't it? You can't just rock up for 90 minutes and expect things to come falling into your lap. You can't. So exactly that, we see it all the time, don't we? Whether it's in person or online, people will be running into the room, hair on fire, then they're the first to leave because they've got the next meeting to go to, or they're dropping out on the hour if you're running over, whatever. Because we live in such a chaotic world. But if we're not giving ourselves the ability to go and meet those wonderful people, then actually do something with it at the end of the meeting, you're not going to do it, because an hour's going to pass. You're going to go for lunch. You're going to then get on with the kids, or you're going to do something else, and you're going to forget that person actually could have been a really good contact for you. One of the members in the meeting today said he went to 1, 2, 3 on Monday, 3 sessions, 2 new clients.
Yeah.
From those, and 1 is a maybe. It's like, this is the serendipity of, yes, sometimes I can't be bothered. I run a lot of these meetings, and I'd be a liar to say sometimes I don't think, oh, God, I've got to go and do this again. But in 2 minutes of being there, it's great, because people bring energy, people make you feel good.
Yeah. It's one of the reasons I do network, is because that's what keeps me going. That's what keeps me going. It is the connections that you make.
Yeah.
I always ask for sort of 3 key points or shares, and one of the things that you put down here is why online networking has changed the future of networking. And I think we've kind of touched on it a little bit, in that it does save you time. And it certainly saves you time, because if you have to rush from a face-to-face, you're not going to do the follow-ups. But if you're at your desk, you will do those follow-ups if you book that extra bit of time. Absolutely. But do you think anything else has sort of impacted networking as a whole, and what changes we're now seeing?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I suppose just to go to that point, online, if you're able to work anywhere, the world is a very small place now, isn't it? For us, setting up a new US version of our business was easy. Hopefully South Africa will come next year. And if it wasn't for the online element of that, I'm having conversations with people all the time from different spaces, and I'm sure lots of people are. The difference, Brian Hilliard one of our members said, when we went in-person networking, we would just implicitly trust that that person that's in front of us is telling me the truth. Like, they're in this room with me, therefore I must trust them and I must give them business. And it was weird. We might have only met them for 10 minutes, but we fell into that space. Unless you really didn't go on with them, of course, it's a different story. But yes, they're here and I need to pass them business. When we went into the online world very early on, there was a lot of distrust. Like, oh, yeah, but who are you? I've literally, you know, I'm meeting you online. Because I think that social media and the scams and all the things that come around that and the cold messages on LinkedIn from sellers and that sort of thing did make people a little bit wary of that online space. But I wholeheartedly believe that's gone now. Yeah. So the golden era for networking is online, and that is just going to continually improve and improve and improve as people hone in on their skills, really listen to what people need, sharpen their services up as a result of that. There's endless choice for business owners. There really is.
You said something, I think you used the word listen, and I think that's part of the challenge when people are online. When you're in a room, you're more likely to be in the room, in the space, and you're present. And I think sometimes when you're online, it's easier not to be present. I mean, we all talk about it, don't we? You know, don't eat your lunch and don't, you know, if you're here, look at the camera. Don't be obviously working over here. There's so many things. But I think when it was face-to-face, it felt easier to be present and in the room. And I think for some, that might have been quite a challenging switch.
Oh, for sure. Like the best bit, and it happened the other day. Somebody tells a joke and everyone's laughing bar one person who is clearly doing something else. And it makes me laugh even more because I clock that person, and that's even more funny than the joke that's just been told. You know, it happens. It's going to happen. We can't expect people to give their all in their concentration. But, you know, I think the problem at the moment is we live in a very chaotic world. And Simon Rogers, who I think you'll know, I've worked with him for a long time. And he said to me the other day, the world is not going to get less chaotic, Kelly. We just need to work out how we deal with the chaos that surrounds us. And I thought that was really key. Yeah. So, you know, even if you are going to in person, there's a lot of comments about people not being present in conversations at the moment, or looking over shoulders and seeing who's coming in the door next, because we live in that real fast-paced next. Yeah, which is a shame.
But that again is a choice that people make, isn't it? And we need to learn.
Yeah.
And actually that's just made me think of something that no one's really been taught how to network. Everyone's been doing it by the seat of their pants. I mean, I've been networking for 20 odd years, and how I network now is very different to 20 years ago. And I think that's part of it, isn't it? It's not necessarily something that is being taught, which is something that actually you do at ONLE, is really provide that training to really help people make the most of it.
Yeah.
And there was something else that came to mind 3 times and I've forgotten while we've been talking. So I wrote it down a moment.
Oh, well done.
I didn't forget, because I think there's something else that I often see and hear. It's, you know, it's about, you know, well, I can't sell to anyone in the room. They're not my clients. And you did touch on that at the beginning, which is what made me think about it. Actually, I'd be interested to know your thoughts on it. I always think I'm never selling to the people in the room. I want to show up as the best I can, because they become my best brand ambassadors. They're the ones that will go out, and it's their connections. You build relationships with those people in the room, not necessarily to sell to those people in the room. It's the introductions that will provide to you.
Well, it's awkward, isn't it, selling to the room, because you're going to see those people all the time. So, you know, it does put you in a bit of a quandary, doesn't it? Listen, good salespeople, good business owners will be able to do both. They'll be able to sell in the room and they'll be able to sell through the room. But if you are purely focusing on who is sat in that room with you, you are massively missing out. Because as you've said, Lindsay, your network becomes your sales force. It becomes your ambassador. They are your ambassadors. Like, they are out there, if they're good networkers, listening for opportunities for you that you cannot gain access to. It blows my mind. I had a chat with somebody the other day who's gone from B2B to B2C to B2B selling, right? So I'm not going to network anymore. Pardon? B2B is all the way with networking. And honestly, couldn't get him to understand that you were actually, it was harder for you to sell B2C.
Yeah.
You've now developed your coaching program for corporates, and you want to get into that space. The networking, not just ONLE, is packed with ex-corporates that have got their own business and have networks back in that space. Yeah. Again, just short-sighted. But it takes effort. And if you're not prepared to put effort in to A, tell me what it is you need, and B, tell me why you need it, I'm not then going to be able to help you, am I?
No, and I think that's one of the things that ONLE does really, really well. At the end of your group meeting, you say, you know, what help do you need? What introductions do you need? Be specific. And that's that's been quite a shift for me. I'm like, well, no one's ever done that before, right? What help do I need? And it's still taking me a little time to go, right, what actual help do I need? But I love that section. And it's been incredible to see some of the things that have been asked for, the introductions that have been asked for. And then someone goes, oh yeah, I know someone.
Yeah.
And that, you know, reaffirms that you're never selling to the room. That reaffirms that it's not about the people in the room. It's about the network as a whole. And it's the network that just keeps on rippling from the people that you're meeting.
Absolutely. But you have to respect it. You know, it is give and take, and you know, really conscientious people, that makes them feel uncomfortable, because it's like, well, I'm taking, but I've not been able to give yet. And it's like, that comes with time, you know, and a good networker and someone with the right intentions, you might take for a long time before you then give back, but that might be an incredible volume, you know. So I think it's about making sure your intentions are right. As you said, if you don't have goals, if you don't understand why you're going networking, don't bother, because you'll just be disappointed. You know, it has to tick certain boxes, doesn't it? We talk about this in our training. There's lots and lots of benefits from networking. You can have them all, or you can have some of them, but you need to know which ones are applicable to you.
And I think that giving back, it's not always about giving somebody an introduction or potentiality of work. Sometimes it's about just noticing that their game's off today and that's really unusual for them, and just sending them a little message and saying, just noticed you weren't quite right today, is everything all right? And so it's in other ways. It's not just about the money, it's just not about the clients. And I think for me, if we can step out of that, it's about the money, it's about the clients, it's about who am I going to be, if you can just step out of that, one, it takes the pressure off, I think. And that's, you know, I know a lot of people find networking quite pressured and find that quite a challenge, but if you can step out of that and find a way of doing that, much easier for people.
Yeah, for sure. And I think I was looking at your post on LinkedIn just now, and the recognition that you tagged some incredible people on there. They're all wonderful people, but that's you giving back to your network. That's you recognizing them, giving them the recognition they deserve for how they've helped to support you, and showing your network that these people are important to you. It didn't cost you anything. It cost you a bit of time. Of course it did. But people forget that, you know, similarly, I did a podcast this week, which is completely off topic of what I would normally talk about. You know, my feed, my inbox is absolutely glowing with support. And some people, well, a lot of people haven't even liked or commented on the post, but they've come to me privately to talk. So don't ever forget what's going on in the background and the support that you achieve from afar, that people are not maybe shouting about directly at you, but they're out there doing all of that good stuff on your behalf. And that doesn't cost anything.
No. And yes, it did take a little time to craft a perfect post.
Yes.
And what was really interesting, I was like, oh, but there's so many people I want to say thank you to. And I was like, no, I need to narrow this down. So many.
Who have I forgot? And then you worry, don't you, as you post it? Like, I've forgotten someone.
But I think for me, that is why ONLE is so incredible. It is the amount of people. And that post, you know, I mentioned people that, you know, I haven't given work to. They have not, you know, done paid work for me. I've not paid them. They've just been people that have gone, yeah, I can help with that. You know, let's just jump on a call for 10 minutes. Just people that, you know, give value. And I think just sometimes giving thanks is,
yes,
you know, is the smallest thing you can do, but actually sometimes it's the biggest thing, because you make somebody's day apart from anything else. And as a business owner, that matters. It really, really does.
I can tell you the surefire way to really annoy someone: not thank them for a piece of work. But that's another conversation. Yeah. So give recognition.
Yeah, no, that's it. And it is important to do that. And it's okay as well when you forget, as long as you remember at some point, because we've all done that as well. But I think that's about, providing you're a really lovely person, you'll have never done it on purpose.
That's right. The intention is there, isn't it?
And let's face it, ONLE, we are all lovely people, and it's just packed full of lovely people.
Indeed.
I just want to check my notes. So I'm wondering actually if we've covered some of your points, because your points were why online networking has changed the future of networking, how to do it properly, and you've given lots of tips on how to do it properly now. And I think it starts with that setting the intention, doesn't it? Why are you networking? Making sure that you're present, you're there, giving and so you therefore receiving that follow-up and those one-to-ones and committing to the network. And that committing to the network, where I'm all in and I'm all over it kind of girl. It's just about saying, well, what can I do, and what way can I commit, and how can I give value? So it doesn't have to be the all in and all over it, but it's about recognizing what you can do. So that you're seen, isn't it? Because I think that really helps with visibility within a network, particularly one with, only with over 350 members.
Quite, yeah.
And the other point was what you can gain from it if you do it well. And I think we've almost touched on that as well, because you can absolutely gain clients, which increases your bottom line. I think it's more than that, Kelly. I think it is the friendships that you make. I think it's the connections you make, and they just sort of, the ones that I love the most are the ones you think, yeah, I'll have a one-to-one, we'll see what happens. And I was just thinking about 2 one-to-ones I had yesterday, people that I hadn't had one-to-ones with before from the ONLE Network. Just the most incredible time spent with them. Both calls were supposed to be half an hour. The last one lasted an hour and a half. It was, it was at the end of the day. We were having a fabulous time. It's those conversations, and you're like, you just don't know where they will land and where they will go. And I think it can be really short-sighted to go, oh, yeah, I don't want to talk to you. Because actually, I think unless you can see that there is an obvious, I think sometimes we do meet people when networking go, it's not gelling. There's not a connection. I think sometimes you can meet people and go, yeah, I just want to have a one-to-one because it's just, great to meet someone in the network, and you have no idea where those conversations will go. And that's usually for me where the gems are. Yeah,
and I do this all the time, and I do often think, I wonder if people get annoyed with me for doing this, but I'll introduce people and I'll say, I don't really know why I'm connecting you, but I just know you're going to get on and you're going to have a good conversation. I'm mindful of who I'm doing that to, and it's normally people I know very well. But honest to goodness, 100% of the time that works, And then I had a message yesterday from off the back of one of them saying, you were absolutely right, and actually we've now had a second one-to-one and we're doing some work in January together. Like it's not about that, but if you're having those wonderful conversations, and I do get a little bit tired, maybe sad, when people say, oh, I don't have time to just be endlessly talking to people. Well, that's your choice. You can do 2 in a day, you can do 2 in a month, you can do 2 in a year if you want to. It doesn't matter. You're master of your own diary. That have to be ramming it completely solidly day after day with one-to-ones. But why wouldn't you want to get out there and find out more about people? Because that's your lead generation, that's your raising awareness. I remember having a one-to-one with Chris, whose surname is escaping me for the minute. Mansfield, I guess. Yes, one-to-one, and we were chatting away, and it was on one of the meetings, so it was like a 10-minute slot, and at the end I went, oh no, we haven't talked about business, and he said, but isn't that the point? We're getting to know one another. And I just thought, that is, and I guess I am a chatter anyway, and I'll talk to anyone about anything. I don't really mind if we talk about business or not. But because it was at an ONLE Networking, and it was that focused 10-minute time, I was like, at the end I was like, oh, we haven't talked about business, and he just went, but isn't that the point? And I just thought, you're right. And what a lovely guy he is too. Yeah, he is, isn't he? Yeah. And let's face it, we want to do business with people that we like. We buy from people we like. We connect with people that we like. And that the only way you can find out if you like someone or gel with someone is to have those conversations. I mean, I don't recommend an hour and a half. No, I mean, and that's a different conversation. I always have half an hour one-to-ones, and some of them I know are going to go on a bit longer. Sometimes my diary doesn't allow it, of course, but again, you don't have to have 1.5 hours, 2 hours conversations. 15 minutes, 20 minutes is enough to know whether or not you want to further a conversation. And if you are strapped for time, as long as you set out your boundaries, and as long as you set the expectations of, I'm sorry, it's only 15 minutes, I have a mental diary, but that will just give us enough time to work out whether we need a further conversation.
Yeah.
You know, because I know a lot of people find it awkward because, you know, I don't care. Even somebody, it's not very often I meet somebody I don't get on with. It hardly ever happens, right? Because I just take everybody as they are. I may not go back to them, but I'm still enjoying the conversation. It's not a hardship, is it? To give somebody some time.
And one of the things I started to do, and I don't know if it's a helpful tip for people, that I got very it was very conscious. I had a call, they went into my CRM, I made some notes, and I'm sure everyone else is going, but haven't you got a CRM? Honestly, I didn't have one. I had not got one until about 12 months ago. I was like, right, I need to do this. But actually it's been life-changing, because I'm like, oh, I need to spin back round. Sends me a task in 4 or 5 months. We need to get on another call. And it's made sure that I've kept that connection going. And that's particularly of benefit with those that I've met in other networks and, you know, sort of months ago. Only slightly different because we're seeing each other, I think, a little bit more because of the network. But that is really important as well, that you make it something that you do religiously. You have a call, do you want to have another one with them, and keeping those valuable notes as well. And that's really paid off for me to be able to keep going back to people.
You've made me feel better, because I've only got a CRM this year. Can you believe that? Like, with all those people, it was up here.
Yeah.
And it was starting to blow my mind. Honestly, I would be awake at night thinking, oh, crikey, I've forgotten about that person. You know, so you are absolutely right. And we use HubSpot. I know we don't get paid to say that, but there's free versions of CRMs out there. There's networking CRMs. You should be using one to a degree. If you go into a lot of networking, you should be, because it is that, you know, there's not necessarily anything happening right in this moment, but I want to keep this person in my sphere because they're a good person. Yeah. So I'm going to want to touch base with them. I still reach out to our lapsed members periodically, just to check in and say, how you doing?
Yeah.
Like,
important to do.
It's still a person. You know, you may not be in my space at this moment in time, but I'm telling you, you're always welcome back. And actually, I value you for who you are and the time that you shared with me. So yeah.
I also use HubSpot, and I use the free version. So there's a free version.
There you go.
And I like that you can send emails from HubSpot and it keeps everything in there. It's incredible.
It's fantastic.
Other versions of other things are available. Yeah. We are not sponsored by HubSpot.
But should HubSpot wants to sponsor your podcast, you'd be very open to it.
I'm there. I'm all over that. Kelly, before we sort of wrap up, what do you think would be your top tips to someone who knows they need to start networking, but hasn't ventured out into that space yet? What would your top tips be?
Easy for me to say just do it, because I know that that's not a nice answer if you're in that space, but just do it. You know, look at the networks around you, get advice from people around you, because you're going to know somebody who networks. You're going to know multiple people that network, and ask them to recommend where would be good for you. If you can find a network that does education, we do free education to people that aren't in the network, just as a, you know, every other month, come along and see what networking as a general is all about. So I'm sure there's other communities that do things like that. So look out for those kind of introductions into networking. And I think first and foremost, remember that we all started somewhere. Like, we were all that person once. And I can still picture what I was wearing. This was literally 22 years ago. Stood like shaking with a piece of paper, like, I don't know what I'm going to say. I've got a tickly cough. Give me the orange juice. You know, petrified. I can see the room now. We just have to do it, you know. And some of us won't want to continue with that because it will be too uncomfortable. But I think particularly if you're an introvert, or you're a little bit more, you know, in that character, online is a really good space for you.
Yeah,
because you get your allotted time, and it focuses off of you.
And actually, you can read from a piece of paper and nobody needs to know.
Nobody knows. Yeah, you can have it on the screen. I do it all the time. Till I read the same bit twice, and then people do.
Really? No. I always suggest to people that, one, yes, they get recommendations, but look for networks that offer a guest visit to get a feel for the network. And then I always say a really good network will then reach out to you, not to sell to you, but to check to see how you were and everything else. And I think that is the key bit there. If you can get a really good couple of recommendations, go along as a guest and get a feel for the meetings, a feel for the people that are there, because it is a two-way street. It's got to be right for the network's got to be right for you, and it's got to be the right space for you. But also I think it's in the follow-up from the the network itself that will really make you feel either really welcome and want to go back and try again, or to join, or make you go, okay, I think I need to try something else. And I mentioned 2 networks, trying out a couple of networks. How many networks do you think people should be giving their time to?
That's a really good question. It depends on your business. So it depends what, Chris Mansfield, who we've talked about. Oh gosh, he does loads. That's his business. He networks professionally, so it makes sense for him to do that. Realistically, probably 2. Right, because, and I'd also be mindful of, are they both open categories? So do they have more than one person from an industry in the room? If they're both open category, I always think about the designers and the web designers, right? Because you tend to find a lot of them in networking. If you're in 2 different networks and you're potentially exposing yourself to 4 experts in any one field, how are you going to give? I mean, if you get enough referrals for that industry that you can kind of divvy it up and you can naturally to the ones that you want to give the work to, then fine. But all you're doing is causing yourself a problem, because you're just giving yourself too many ambassadors, and then you can't service them, and then they can't service you either, because you're just diluting it too much. So probably 2 successfully, at a push 3. I get that some people they like to go for a coffee and have a real intimate, almost mastermind version of the network. That's different. I think if you've got that, you could add that in as a 3rd. But I think more than that, you're going to struggle. You're going to start to see weak spots coming in.
Now, we've obviously talked about ONLE a lot, for obvious reasons. Where, if somebody wants to find out a little bit more about ONLE, where do they go, Kelly? What's the website address?
So the website is, she says, can't remember her own website, theonly.network.
I was going to look quickly for you.
I was going to quick. Well, I've only known it for 6 years. Theonly.network. So ONLE is spelled ONLE. I'm sure if you Google ONLE networking, it will come up, as long as you spell it right. Reach out to me on LinkedIn. I mean, LinkedIn is a networker's dream. That's a CRM in itself, isn't it? Yeah. So if you're not using LinkedIn with your networking activity, you are missing a trick. So I'm very open on LinkedIn. If you're going to connect with me, please send me a message, because I need to know why we're connecting, and then have a conversation. But you're right, for us, it's not about numbers. It's about quality. It's about the right people in the community that can help support each other. So we're always mindful of letting people come and try, because we need to vet them first too. We need to see them in action. So, you're right, a good visit, and then a conversation afterwards.
Yeah. Well, I will make sure, I nearly couldn't say that then. I will make sure that those links are below this video, so people can reach out to you on LinkedIn, and they can find you also on the internet. Thank you so much for joining me today, Kelly. If anyone could hear any banging, crashing, or anything else, I'm having a kitchen fitted today. I'm hoping Zoom's worked its magic and kept all the noise at bay. It's also why I am wrapped up, because it is freezing in my house, not just because it's about -2 degrees outside, but also every single door and window is open. But I did take my bobble hat off because I thought that was a step too far. But Kelly, thank you so much for joining me today. Thank you for sharing your wisdom about networking, and thank you for founding ONLE with James, because I think it is one incredible network and well worth people having a look at.
Thank you, Lindsay. It's been a pleasure. Thanks for having me.